Hey guys, Kamina the coach here. Um, Spoiler alert, you may not like me after this video. So, for those of you who are new here, my name is Kamina the coach. This channel was originally dedicated to helping people get it together to work and live abroad. I've worked and lived abroad for well over a decade. I'm in my 9th country. I am currently in Baghdad, Iraq. In March of 2020, when COVID came in, I returned to the United States and started focusing more on healing trauma. I was really blessed to be able to get back out of the United States in September of 2022. And so now the channel has become more of a mixed bag. I've talked about it quite a bit, so this is going to be about trauma and kind of my take on what's going on in the world, and admitting the conflict inside of me as I feel like a lot of people are struggling with conflict inside of themselves. So if you haven't been following the channel, I am a transracial adoptee, and it's hard for me to use that word because when Rachel Dolezol, a white woman who identifies as a black woman, came out, she started coining the term transracial to identify how she identifies as a white person who feels like she's black. And I used to really recoil from that, but it's 2023. It's about to be April of 2023, and we are in a world where we do not call it, I believe there is still a term, gender dysphoria, to describe transracial people, but we're not calling it a mental illness anymore. And I guess after I got over my disgust with Rachel Dolezol, I wanted to call it a mental illness. So let me back up. Transracial adoptee, obviously a black woman who was adopted by racist white family. My biggest challenge right now in life is to figure out how to make peace with race and racism and all that stuff. And late discovery adoptee. I didn't find out I was adopted until I was 32. So lots of stuff going on there. I guess Rachel Dolezal was outed in 2012. I'm not sure exactly. There is a documentary on Netflix, and when I came across it, I knew that I had to watch it. I have had people refer to me as Rachel Dolezal, which has been quite painful because I guess, so as a late discovery adoptee, I was actually living as white for a long time, not knowing I was black. And the same way that a lot of people, so I feel like there is a lot of privilege with a white man being able to become a woman and then be named Woman of the Year, Caitlyn Jenner. And the same way I feel about that is the same way that I feel about Rachel Dolezal, and I'm really reckoning with that. And I'm like, really and truly, like, what's the difference? And I don't think that there is a difference. I think because race has been so sensitive a topic because of racism and slavery and Jim Crow laws and all the horrible, heinous things. Yes, there is a divide between men and women, but it hasn't been to the extreme between white and black. So I think because there's this precarious divide. Now, mind you, if you've not watched any of my videos, I'm wildly pro-black, but it's a very similar type of story though, right? Rachel Dolezal was raised white and then identified as black because of trauma that had happened to her. I am genetically black, but I was raised as a white child. I identified as white, and then something happened, and then I identified as black. It didn't happen quite like that. It was a transformation. But I didn't really know her backstory. I know she was raised by some fundamentalist white people who also adopted black children. Transracial adoption being so detrimental to everyone. Um, so if you don't know her story, I encourage, especially if it makes you angry to hear about a white woman claiming to be black, I encourage you to go watch the story. Essentially, she was told from birth that, that she was a problem because she almost killed her mother at birth, and her older brother didn't was perfect in their parents' eyes. He sexually molested her and then was sexually molesting one of the black adopted children. And when this was about to go to court is when the white parents decided to out her. She had been living as a black woman. She had been married to a black man who um, was proud of her as his like snow bunny wife, and then she ended up leaving him with their child, and she ended up getting custody of one of her full-blooded black siblings, and went through this like metamorphosis, um, and it allowed, hearing her story allowed me to have some compassion for her, because um, I really had nothing but contempt for her up until this point, because people would refer to me as her, even though this isn't a spray tan, I'm not covering up freckles, this is who I am. Um, where do we get off telling people? And why do we get to decide what part of identity is okay to decide on your own, and what part is decided by DNA? And if we are going to tell a man that he can be a woman if he chooses, which I still struggle with, I'm just being honest, I struggle with it. And it's the same argument that Black people make towards Rachel Dolezal. I have had the struggle of being a woman my whole life. You haven't earned it. And then, boom, you do a surgery and you get Woman of the Year. And it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard. It's hard to accept. So if we are as a society are going to say that we can accept that, can we not? Are we not forced to accept the other? I've been grappling with this for a long time. I have, because race is like the final frontier for me on my trauma healing journey, and I feel like that will be what I fight with for, or what I struggle with the rest of my life. And I agree with all the people, and I agree with the fact that it is privilege that she gets to make a choice, but it is also privilege that a man gets the choice to be a woman, and women don't actually get the choice to be a man. A woman can't go through that surgery and just, ta-da, she has penis. It doesn't really work like that for women, because we don't have the anatomy to create a fully functioning penis, but a man has the anatomy to create a vagina. That's not fair, is it? But we have said that it's okay. As a society, we're like, this has to be accepted. Um, Agender, gender neutral, all these things that have been defined by DNA before, that we're saying no. These things will not be defined by DNA any longer. These are societal constructs, as well as race. These are societal constructs. There is culture, for sure, but culture as well is a societal construct. And um, again, so hearing her story, my first response immediately is psychosis, immediately is psychosis. She said that from a child she has felt like she's African American. I don't know if that is true, but who am I to question her on that? And I feel like it would be the same thing with a transgendered person. You don't really get to question that. I feel like if there was a surgery that would change um, Rachel Dolezal's race for her, I feel like she would happily take that and at no point regret the decision that she's made. So why then does she get vilified, but we're not going to vilify transgendered people? Granted, a large portion of this of society does, bigoted, closed-minded, and I will forever identify as somebody who is pro-choice on every aspect, that you can be and should be able to be whoever you want to be as long as you're not hurting anyone else and hurting the earth. I feel like you should be able to be whoever you want without persecution. And I do think that she should tell her story. I do think that she should be more honest about what has brought her to where she is. I think that people would have more compassion for her. I certainly did. But it was right before she was about to go to court to testify for her adopted, full-blooded African American sister who had been being sexually molested by her white adoptive brother, and these white parents of Rachel Dolezal outed her to discredit her before she went to court to testify against this biological brother that had also sexually molested her. So because she had been lying about her identity instead of telling the truth, which I think a lot more people would have empathized with. So because she had been lying, she's now discredited, and she was the only thing that her sister had that could have given her a leg up on her case. So I wish that, so the same way that I'm able to tell the painful truth about my past, a lot of us have painful pasts. I think that those of us that were adopted by white people, racist white people, and Rachel Dolezal tells it honestly, it's cheaper and faster to adopt Black children, which is why a lot of white people who are racist end up with Black children. And I think that a lot of us that were adopted by white racist families are faced with telling our very painful stories and accepting our very painful truths, and that's part of healing and moving forward. It's very hard to watch her biological son grapple with having had to watch her go from a white woman to a Black woman, and having to face being ridiculed at school and by society, and being very confused by what life has thrown at him. And I think that if she would have been honest and told the hard truth right from the beginning, that she would not have been faced with all that she is being faced with. I will say that it is a double standard to say that a man can choose to be a woman, but a white person can't choose to be Black. It is unfortunate that a Black person cannot choose to be white the same way that a woman cannot choose to be a man. We can cut off our breasts, but we can't erect a penis. It's the same privilege structure. A man can choose to be a woman, a white person can choose to be Black. It's that same type of privilege unbalance. So if we're okay with one, then as a society we have to say that we're okay with the other. And if we're not okay with one, then we have to be okay with all of them. I'm about consistency. It's the same thing with R. Kelly and Michael Jackson. If you're not okay with one, you have to not be okay with the other. Oh, Michael Jackson was abused. So was R. Kelly, horribly abused. And I see it in one of the comedians that I've watched recently. He was like, I'm not against the progress we're making. I'm just how selective we're being in applying our standards. And I'm gonna have to agree with that. I am for at this point in my life, and I don't really care if it is a sign of trauma. I am about radical honesty. I am able to call out the lies that I have perpetrated in my life that benefited me and hurt others, or propelled my story. But at this point, no matter what, I am about radical honesty. I don't always succeed, but I'm almost always willing to call myself out on it. Notice I said almost. I do my best to be radically honest, and I think that it would do everyone a great deal of justice to be honest right from the beginning. And so this is my take on Rachel Dolezal, and my take on male to female transgendered identity, female to male transit. There's a privilege that is undeniable there. Being able to be a man who holds the privilege to choose to be a woman, it's just not fair when we can't choose to be men, and a white person can choose to be black when a black person can't choose to be white, and also not fair. And it is an unfortunate part of life that life isn't fair, but I'm just calling for some radical honesty. Let's be really real and really honest. So if we're okay with one, we have to be okay with other. So I don't really have a resolution. It's just being very, very honest and candid with where I'm at in my journey towards equity. So that's all I had to say today. Nothing more radical than that. Until next time, my name is Kamina the Coach, sending you love, light, peace, and joy. I'm out.